Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be recapping my round 8 games that I played in the World Open. Going to this game, I was at 4 out of 7. In this 8th round, I'm playing someone at 22-26 and I'm with the white pieces. And I start off the game with e4, he goes e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, the Gokko piano, castles knight f6. I've encountered the same opening once before and I had won that, so I was feeling very confident in this opening that I could produce a good result, or at least a draw. A4, A5, knight B2. All of this is the usual. H3. Now he goes knight E7, is trying to get his knight to G6, which is what happened. Knight F1, and now he goes C6. He's trying to prepare D5 and try and break open the center. I just go knight G3 to support my center. D5. I trade, and now I go bishop B3. And now my opponent goes queen D6. So my opponent has both these pawns in the center, so he's controlling more of the center. But combined with my pieces, I do also have some compensation. So now I go bishop g5, trying to basically weaken this d5 pawn and threatening to take the knight, so which is why he goes rook d8. If he just went h6, then I would have taken, and after queen f6, bishop d5, I would be up a pawn. And after g takes f6, now the pawn structure is ruined, and I could maybe play knight h5 here. So my opponent goes rook d8, and I go knight h4, trying to maybe get my knight to f5, and also with the knight no longer at f3, I could have future prospects of putting my queen on f3. But my opponent goes h6, and I thought this would be a good time to trade off the knight, and now go bishop e3. And here with this long diagonal of the bishop to the king, I really like my position. But after trades and goes king h7, I didn't really know what to do here. I didn't know if I should push the pawn or if I should leave the pawn. And I eventually settled on just going bishop c2, which in my opinion was not the best move because now he pushed the pawn d4. And here's why I didn't push the pawn. If I pushed the pawn, then I thought my opponent would most definitely go e4, and he would have more space in the position. But I was contemplating doing this because I have breaks such as f3 and c4 that could ruin his pawn structure in the end. But I thought I could go bishop c2 first, and then maybe go d4, because I thought for some reason him going d4 was not the best, because now this pawn e5 is a backwards pawn, and I have this outpost on e4 for the future. Rook e1, bishop d7, now I go knight e4, I trade, he goes bishop f5, and now I go rook e1, and here he goes rook c8, and basically forcing me to go c4, because I do not want to go, because I can't really go queen d2, because now getting takes, and then bishop d3 is coming. So I have to go c4, and with all these pawns on light squares, this just makes my bishop look really bad. It basically looks like an extra pawn here. And also, by going c4, I also close the position a little bit, but not really, as he does have ideas like rook c6 and rook b6, maybe getting rook to b4, and also attacking my queen side. So the position is not really closed, but I was going to have to make this position work. My opponent goes rook f8, I go queen d2, attacking the pawn, and he goes rook a8, which I found a little bit odd, but looking back at it, if he did go b6, there would be no more queen b6 or rook b6 ideas, so that, I guess that's why he went rook a8. But now I go rook e2, and I double up. I try to have my pieces in maximum activity, which is why I have this weird plan of basically trying to get my queen to g3 and have my rooks, like, hammering down this pawn. And how I do that is I go rook f2, then I repeat the position because I wanted to see what he was going to do. He goes g5, completely controlling f4, so there's no future f4. But now I go rook e2, and then king g8, and then I go queen e1, then I go rook f1, queen g3, and rook fe1. And now, with my queen and both my rooks, I do have a lot of pressure on this pawn. And I thought, if I just keep this position, black can't really do anything, and the position should probably just be a draw. But he goes queen f6, and I see perhaps he's trying to go queen f4, go rook f1, and then go queen e1 back, trying to force the queen off sides here, so there's no future h5, g4. But now we go bishop d1, and here he goes king g8, and we've hit time control, so now we get the extra time. and I don't really know what to do here. The position is like kind of closed, and there's no breaks for me. But after queen g3, bishop f5, he attacks my pawn. Now I go bishop c2, and here you might be thinking, well, you just gave up a free pawn. But after queen b2, I had the idea of going rook b1, and after queen a3, I was going to go queen e1, and now attack this pawn. If he goes queen c5, I go rook b5, and I win this pawn. And after bishop takes d3, I go rook b3, and I fork the two pieces. And if rook b1 and he goes queen c3 instead, I then go rook b3, queen a1, rook b1, and actually I'm totally fine repeating the position. He would either have to repeat or he have to go queen e3, in which I would just go queen e1. And at that moment, I was totally fine repeating because I didn't really see like any future of me winning the game. I thought if anyone's gonna win, it's black because of the better bishop. But he doesn't take the draw. He just goes queen g6. I go rook d1, and now he goes h5. He's trying to break through with g4, and now I go king h2. And here he goes rook e6, which is kind of a reckless move because he allows me to play this really nice move c5, and on the surface it looks like I'm not really doing anything here, right? But as soon as I saw him going rook e6, which I thought the idea was to go rook b6, or maybe just shuffle the rooks and see what to do next, maybe trying to just gain some time. But actually after rook e6, I see that the rook and the king are on the same diagonal, and perhaps I could exploit that with my bishop. So that's why I go c5. And that would either force him to move the rook or move the king. And he can't just move the rook away from the e-pawn. I would just win it. So that puts him in an even more tricky situation, as he now decides to move the king. But now I was going to attack his rook, and if bishop takes d3, then I was going to go rook e d2, and I'm gonna win at least an exchange here, and I'm very happy in this position. But he doesn't do that. He goes back, rook 6 e7, but now we go bishop c4, and it's better defending the pawn on d3 on c4 because now my bishop's a little bit more active. My plan was to just put my bishop on b5, put my pawn on b3 so that everything's defended, and then really try and hammer through this e5 pawn. But I still didn't actually think I was going to win or anything. He goes bishop d7, I go b3 to defend a4. Now my opponent goes queen f6, perhaps for a possible queen trade, and I see that maybe it's not the best to trade queens, so I go queen e1, attacking this pawn. Now he goes rook f8, and here I was actually starting to get really low on time. We're in the last like 5-10 minutes, and I end up grabbing this pawn a5, which according to computers is actually a mistake. It gives black the upper hand again because of this breakthrough g4. And I thought, okay, I could just take, but then he goes queen f4 check, which is actually a mistake. He should have just taken the pawn, and my idea was I was actually going to go queen e1, after g takes h3, maybe bishop d5, and trade off these pawns. And miraculously, I'm actually not totally dead here, but I thought maybe put my bishop on e4 and get a queen on the h file. I could just checkmate him. But he goes queen f4 check. But after king g1, he trades the pawns. I guess this was his idea. Like, I can't take because of bishop g4. And I can't really just leave this pawn here. And h4 is just really dumb. He just goes g3. But I find pretty much the only move to maintain an advantage or just keep the game going, which is queen d2. But now he trades. I trade off the queens and goes gh3. And now he goes g5. I go rook e1, attacking the pawn. Rook f5. In this moment, I am up a pawn, so I know I'm definitely better here. I now go bishop d5, attacking the bishop. I maximize the activity of it, and I had this really nice idea of basically putting my bishop on d5, then on e4. So now the rook on f5 is no longer defending on e5, and now I go bishop g2, defending h3, and attacking the pawn on e5. And now after rook f5, now I go rook to e4, which basically threatens to win this pawn d4. He allows it, and after rook ef7, just maybe trying to get something on the f file, I go rook d5, king f6, I give him a check, and now I go rook f1. He goes rook f4, and I decide maybe it's best to go back. And here he goes rook b4, which is basically the final nail in the coffin for him. If he'd gone rook f5, perhaps he could have kept the game going on longer. I would have maybe done b4 and just started marching these pawns down and trying to promote. But rook b4 is a mistake because now I take. After rook b3, rook g5, my opponent resigns the game because if king h7, then bishop e4, followed by rook h6, and if king h8, rook d8 check wins a piece. So yeah. So now after this 8th round, my current score at that moment was at 5 out of 8, and I was very happy. I was definitely not expecting to win. I was sort of holding on the whole time. I was never really losing, but I was slightly worse. And perhaps I got more chances once he allowed this move c5, which is kind of unfortunate for him. He was playing the game very well. And yeah, so my next video will be me recapping my final round game, the World Open. Finally, I'll be done with this World Open series, and then I can move on to making other chess content. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and that's all for today. Goodbye, everyone.